right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Okay. So I'm going to be monitoring the chat. So before we get started, okay, I just want to say that in the chat, I've been looking over the chat a little bit. I don't care if people are upset or whatever. That's fine.
People be upset for sure.
Be upset. No
Keep
problem.
It clean.
Just don't. No insults.
Keep it clean. Don't get personal with players and
with
and
players
stuff. Like
or any
don't
of that stuff, right?
don't do that.
We're going to get into this game, and no one is happy. We understand. We're going to get into it. Just don't get personal with, especially the team and the players and that sort of thing. So, all right, Notre Dame loses to Marshall 26-21. Jamie, and I look. Before we'll get into all the specifics and everything like that. Something I have noticed, and I put it on Twitter, and it's been apparent to me that the first 2 games now, to 8 quarters, especially offensively, is the level of play just is not there. It is not. It is not a high level of play. The reason I'm saying that is because we're talking about, like, a lot of people talk about play calls, right? So I see the game, and I see the on Twitter the comments about this play, that play, and look, I don't like a lot of the play calls either in certain situations, but the overarching thing that's hanging over everything is the level of play is not where it needs to be. And that is the biggest problem for Notre Dame right now, not just on offense, but just the entire team, really, but especially on offense. Jamie, why don't you give me some thoughts before we get going here?
I guess we'll just overall, I think just the level of execution from the team was poor all around. And when it's like that, yes, it is on players and stuff too, but it is on 100% on coaching. First and foremost, I don't think, I would say, like, you can't read too much into, like, some of, like, Marcus Freeman told them they got to play harder. It's like, I mean, it's not just playing harder. It wasn't.
That's not it. I don't think that's it at all. Honestly,
that's not it. And it's like there's a level, there's a standard that needs to be met, and it's not even close to being met. I think my just take on offensively. I think the first game you could definitely say, like, a lot of the stuff that happened with some of the stuff that Reese called. I don't think, you can certainly question it and criticize it, but I don't think he called a horrible game. This game, I thought he did a really poor job. Just completely overall, just seeing how the game was going and how it's reacting. Like, you have to know when you're getting your butt kicked up front and when you're not, and how a certain team's playing you and what works for you and what doesn't, and what your quarterback can do and what he can't do, and who your playmakers are and who aren't. Like, I think maybe there was this idea that it was going to be easy against Marshall. And I mean, this kind of thing has happened to Notre Dame repeatedly, right? It's not like, I mean, look at what's going on in college football. There's a lot of games like this today. Like, Alabama's 21-point favorite squeaked by, Texas, right? App State and A&M, I think, are in like a barn burner right now. Like, stuff can happen, right? And Brian Kelly certainly lost a bunch of these games early on his thing. And that's why people ripped on Brian Kelly. And even when he eventually won these ugly games later on, the Toledos, the Ball States, or whatever, it's still, he still got heat for it. So no one is immune to these kind of games, but you still got to win them. And they didn't do anything good enough to win them. And there were so many plays left on the field. I just thought there was just so many things that you can point to where you were just like, man, that was just not good enough, like, from all around, right? So, and I think when it comes down to it, you can point at players and you can say this and that play, and we will get into players and all that kind of stuff too. But it's a failure from the coaching staff. It's a huge failure from the coaching staff to lose this game. There's no way, you have no business losing this game. And they lost it. And it wasn't even like they lost it and it was like this. Marshall outplayed them. They outplayed them.
They did get outplayed. And look, when Marshall rushed for over 200 yards. I mean, what is going on? That is just, that can't ever happen, especially when, going into the season, offensive line, defensive line, like that's going to be the strength of the team. That's when it's going to carry them. You can't run the ball. The protection has been, I can't believe the line play right now, just across the board. It is truly shocking to me. If there was anything that I thought would be carrying this team to the point where it's like carrying them to the point where you can't be bad.
That's what I just thought. I just thought that there was like, because of that, where they had questions at other spots, I was like, well, they'll have these questions and they have to figure things out, like at receiver and running back and whatever. And you have to figure these things out and DB and all this, but they'll figure it out. But they have the basis for a strong team no matter what, where maybe they're not going to beat an Ohio State, but they should be able to beat everybody else because they're better than everybody up front. And let me tell you, they're not better. That is not the case.
Not good. That is not good. I want to get to the super chat from Touche Porter, who why not play Pine as a moment changer? And I'll tell you why. Because they need Buckner's legs. They need his legs.
They do. That's
why. Because they can't generate.
They can't generate a running game.
They can't generate a running game without it. So they need him to move around. I'm going to be checking. I'm going to be checking the on Twitter here, because we do need to find out what's going on with Buckner. Because he didn't come back out after he got his shoulder landed on and that sort of thing. So we need to find out. But that's a big story right now. So
ban this Kelly Kirk guy. I don't know. He's just ban him right now. Yeah.
All right.
We don't need this guy on here. Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So all right. What did you think of, I guess, well, we've talked about the game plan. I mean, I guess just top of mind right now, what's going on with the Chris Tyree situation? I don't understand. You have a player like him who is good in the open field. Like you said, you need to get players in space. You haven't opened the field. He had touched the ball one time in the first half, and it was the last play of the half. It was the last play of the half that you're just trying to get to the locker room, right? So that I don't understand that piece of it, right? Where you have a player who is – we saw how he was used in the Fiesta Bowl and how well he was used as a receiver and that sort of thing. Not a factor, not a huge part of the game plan. And that is something that is strange to me. That is not something that I understand. And just because, especially when you look at the offense and you look at the defense, there's a lack of playmaking across the board.
Yes.
And
speed. Lack of speed.
And if you have a lack of speed and a lack of playmaking, then why aren't you emphasizing Chris Tyree even more in that situation?
I couldn't agree more. I don't understand. I think if you were the team that you thought you were going to be with the offensive line and you were going to be able to pound it down people's throats, then Estemi is your lead back. I get it for sure. You saw the one run he had, like where he's carrying dudes. That's fine, but he's getting hit in the backfield every single time that he's carrying the ball. When he's out there and he's like running a little flare out potential screen, whatever, it's like, that's not something he's not going to win in those situations. So I don't really get that. I was frankly shocked that Logan Diggs played ever in the game after that blitz pickup, because that
was really surprising.
It was really bad.
Here's the other part too, is like it makes me think he's not super healthy, because he is not that way. He is never. Last year he was a good in blitz pickup. He was good in that area, and that was not a good effort. And it makes me think he's not.
Yeah, maybe he's a little whatever, not confident there. And I think I thought that same thing too. And I think with like, when it came down to like so much of the offense, and obviously I'll chart this stuff after the game when we do it, but like when like, you know, he had caught the little like swing kind of thing and just turned it into like 9 yards. And that's just what they needed, because they were in third and long forever.
Yeah.
They were in third and long so much. And I think it's just obvious. Like Tyler Buckner is not a guy that you can win with in third and long right now. He's not. He hasn't shown that yet. Maybe he will be eventually. And obviously these reps are going to help him. But like Notre Dame's not really in a position where they can, you know, if they were in a spot where like, you know, they were up 21-0 and then they're dealing with third and longs, that's different. They needed like to move the chains. They need to score points, right? So the Tyree usage is weird to me. I'd like how they got Styles obviously more involved. Obviously, he's a guy who can break tackles and all that. You know, you're going to get Mayer involved. Obviously, he was involved. But like, I think when you look at it overall, Greg, and I don't know if you agree with me here, but like, I think you're really starting to see too how the questions are like, well, who's going to step up here? And they haven't really had that kind of step up out of the guys, because we thought like Styles and Mayer, everyone's like, yeah, those are Notre Dame's good skill guys, that they're going to be able to do some things. But you know, like Lindsey, you know, throwing 50-50 balls to Lindsey, I mean, I just, that's not a winning proposition to me, you know? And I'm not saying like, like Lindsey could have, I mean, he was wide open on that one. That would have been a touchdown. Everyone would have been celebrating, whatever. Right. But I just like, if he's going to be your boundary receiver, and like, do they have a guy other than like lining up Michael Mayer that they could win like on a back shoulder throw? Like, I mean, I haven't seen it yet. Like, I don't think so. So, I mean, are they really relying that much on Deion Colsey to kind of step up when he's healthy, or for Tobias Merriweather to kind of figure it out? And I know all the people will be calling for Tobias Merriweather, but like, I mean, if they're not playing him in this kind of game, then he's not ready yet. He's obviously not ready yet. So,
so we've had a couple comments and a couple super chats. Thank you for those. Aside from the atrocious loan, what's the biggest problem with the offense? Defense can't keep bailing them out. So, and there was another super chat too, and we thank you for those, talking about we have two quarterbacks that can't read defenses, right? And I think that is where like you have to look at the job that Tommy Rees is doing developing these guys, because Buckner is throwing interceptions when there are other players available, right? When there are other options available, especially on the pick six, where you have Michael Mayer on the other side is completely wide open, right? Just hit him in the flat, we're moving the chains, and we're going down the field. If he's not ready to do that, right? And then Drew Pine comes in and he's, you know, granted, it's a tough situation, right? You're coming in cold and everything, and you haven't played, you haven't warmed up or any of that stuff. Totally understood. At the same time, he comes in, he's not seeing where the ball ought to go. He's taking sacks, right? So he throws an interception on a player that's dropping like right in front of him, like not difficult read. So neither of those guys comes in and is playing at a high level, right? And to me, Buckner, it's not even his skill set as much as it's just a lack of preparedness. And it's not just from him, but it's from the entire offense. That is the thing to me. There's just a total lack of being ready to go, being ready to be sharp, and being ready to play at a standard that Marcus Freeman talks about a lot, right? You got to be able to play to the standard. To say they're not close to it is an absolute understatement.
Yeah.
So I guess, Jamie, where do you see the where do you see the improvement coming from here beyond just needing more time, I guess? Because I got to tell you, it's there's not a lot of fixes. That's the other
I'm
thing.
going to tell you too. I mean, I haven't paid attention, didn't pay attention at all to what's going on with Cal and UNLV. And I mean, I don't think Cal's like they're not a great football team, but Cal, they play good defense. That's one thing 100% they do. Cal plays good defense. And if Notre Dame isn't like severely improved, they're going to score less than 20 against Cal for sure. Like it's going to happen. So so obviously just like there's so many things up front that they can do better. Just like, I mean, the consistency level from everybody is just not good enough. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was just a lot of stuff in this game. And obviously there was plays there that you're like, Buckner, you know, if he makes this throw or he makes that throw, I mean, things change rapidly, right? So yeah, Buckner can be better and whatever, but there's still like the lack of like knowing when like I shouldn't be able to watch the game and say like, why aren't they using the perimeter more? Why is like Marshall beating Notre Dame on the perimeter, but Notre Dame, even they were beating them on the perimeter, just not using it enough? Like getting like Michael Mayer in space and saying, tackle this big, you know, baby Gronk tight end. Getting Lorenzo Styles in space, because literally every time he's like making the first guy miss and breaking a tackle, right? Getting Chris Tyree in space because he's got speed. And if there's just one little thing, maybe he can break it. And if you give him, break it. And if there's one touch, a guy you need for one touch to do that kind of thing, that's what you're doing. And if you're not able to hit on the deep ball, which they could not hit on the deep ball, and I think Buckner, I think in the deep ball, especially this game, and I would say some of it you've kind of seen before, like he's got to give his guys a chance. He was short on a lot of stuff and not like the arc on it. He wasn't putting enough air on it. So that's a thing too. But like, you got to just, the best thing I can say is feed the playmakers, feed the guys that you know are your athletes that can do these kind of things. And, you know, you work on these kind of things to get better within, you know, your base running plays and all this kind of stuff. But like, that's just not a quick fix. That's just not something that happens. Like they might be able to get that, but it's like, they don't have time. They don't have time. So while they kind of figure that out, they got to lean on the playmakers and lean on the speed guys and lean on all those guys in order to succeed, or else they're not going to succeed. Use Buckner in the run game, use him, RPO, you know, that's the stuff they ran last year with him.
Like they have to do that. Like there is no, and they have to do that while also getting him more comfortable. I mean, it's just difficult because, you know, you feel like it's there. That's why I just think like it's not that Buckner can't do it. That's the thing. He looks fine when he's running it. It's just that the decision making, he can't sustain good play at the moment right now. And unfortunately, that is simply a matter of prep. It is simply a matter of
I think it's a lack of experience. I think
it's a lack of experience for sure, but like
I think the guy, he's barely played quarterback. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think with all the people who are trying to kind of force it, like, and I'll bring it back to like, the guy should have played his senior year of high school. And I know he would have had to wait and not enrolled early, but like the guy has like 0 game reps, basically. He played 1 year junior, and it was a phenomenal year of quarterback play, but then he didn't have a senior year. And then last year he played like fits and starts, whatever, like little as like a package player. So now he's got to learn on the job and do all these things. Like, I mean, it's incredibly difficult. Like, I mean, you got to become a master at the craft. It's the hardest position in all of sports to play quarterback. And he just hasn't had a ton of reps. So I have no doubt that if they stick with him, he's going to be a guy who's way better at the end of the year than he is now. The problem is that
They
They're
have to
not.
stick with them. They don't have.
Yeah, I think they have to. I think I don't
Yeah,
think they have any choice. But like, the problem is that the players around him aren't playing good enough to allow him to be able to grow, and that's the biggest problem.
Yep. Aldous Huxley's Ghost. We Are Marshall on my DVD shelf. I mean, what is going on here? You got take it off the shelf, man.
Yeah.
This is stuff. I mean, look at what I would say to people, in the look at, like, we've had a good run and we made fun of a lot of teams, and it's Notre Dame's comeuppance for right now, so we're just gonna deal with it. And I want to address too. So a couple of people again have brought up that Mike Frank is not here. He texted me yesterday. So this isn't a today thing. He texted me yesterday. I guess there's something going on with his band, and he said he had to do today. He will definitely be on tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week, because I can't. I have soccer games and all that stuff. He will be here next week. I promise you. Someone was like, "Oh, he's a coward." Let me tell you something. Mike Frank would not shy away from having some strong opinions about this. I'll tell you
please check the message boards later. And I guarantee you, Mike will breathe fire onto his frank commentary is going to be you have to check it out. I'll say, like, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, there's a lot of we just said
do you not listen?
He's doing a band thing.
We just said he's doing a band thing. Yeah.
He needs to, BK needs to get his own house figured out before he's laughing.
Yeah, I don't think he's laughing his ass off.
So. Yeah. So let's look at the defense too, because I think a lot of the focus is on the offense right now. I think the defense has a lot to answer for. It's another situation where the stars they're just not playing like stars, right? I mean, Isaiah Foskey, he had the one sack. But then he also had, like, the play before, he got completely pancaked.
He got caked.
Yeah, he just got really just thrown around, not making an impact. I mean, someone else brought up, someone in the chat brought up, no turnovers forced in the last
not in 2 games.
And honestly, like, not even like close to, it's
not
like there was a drop pick or there's someone fumbled and they picked it up. Like, no, like, they're not close to that. I would say the player that's playing the best out of everyone right now is Tariq Bracy.
Yeah.
And just to highlight, like, where Notre Dame is from an execution standpoint and a preparedness standpoint is the play that you referenced with Ramon Henderson, where he's in man, he's got the tight end, they fake the ball to the back, and he looks inside. When he has the tight end in man, you got to follow him across. There's no reason that you need to be looking inside.
Do your job. You have
your job, and you have the thing that you have to do. And to me, that is another indication that these guys aren't being prepared, because that is a mistake that, frankly, Marshall needs to be making, that they aren't making. And so that extends the drive. And then you have, for the second game in a row, in the fourth quarter, there is a 90-plus yard drive for a touchdown that, I don't want to say seals the game, because it only put Notre Dame down by 4, but it's like, you cannot allow a 90-plus yard drive in the fourth quarter with the lead. I don't want to say against Marshall, because that should not happen, period. Right?
It should happen, period, but definitely not against.
It definitely shouldn't happen against Marshall. It shouldn't happen against Cal. It shouldn't happen against Stanford. It shouldn't happen against any team that isn't, like, ranked. Like, aside from, Ohio State, Clemson, and USC, if it should not happen against any of those teams. So anyone else, I mean. So that is another indication. Like, that is the second game in a row that's happened. And to me, I don't even see it as adjustments, really, because it's not like Marshall was doing anything different than they had been doing the whole game. To me, it's just leveling up. You got to level up.
Yeah, I think, on that last drive, like, it was just like Henderson blows that assignment. Brandon Joseph missed 2 tackles, and Brandon Joseph was played really well up to that point, but he missed 2 tackles on that on that series. Like there was like Botello's out there in that situation, which fine. People want to see more Jordan Botello, whatever. Well, guess what? You're in. Make a play. Miss the tackle in the hole. You got to make the tackle. And I know LeBourne is a good player. He was a 5-star kid, but like there was a lot of missed tackles on him today. It was bad, right? And I think the main thing on defense was you saw in spurts they played really well, and obviously they played really well on third down for the most of the game. Like they didn't convert very often on third down, but like you said, the best players. So Foskey, he got crumpled on that one thing. He had the 1 15-yard face mask penalty. That was big, obviously. Jason Admirola, like he got on their touchdown where they scored the thing. They ran right over his gap, and he got caked. Like embarrassing. Quentin Nelson, like put him on his back, caked. Like I don't even know what to say with that, because like he literally played against Alabama in 2020, and their offensive line is like 10 times better than Marshall's offensive line, and yet he got caked. Like I don't even know what's there. Like what is missing there? And I don't think it's like, oh, it's the switch from Mike Elston to Al Washington for those guys. Like it can't be that, like in terms of, because it's like those guys have played more than enough football. They didn't forget how to play defensive line, So I don't even know. And I mean, it starts up front. I think the defensive line, like get off a block. Wade just stuck on blocks. Not enough penetration. I will say, like Al Golden, I think like, overall, I think is good with some calls and stuff too, like especially coverage wise, but like move these guys up front. There's no movement, especially because you have these like quick defensive tackles that aren't going to be able to hold up all the time. Like use their strengths, move these guys, twist, stunt, like slant, move these guys a bit more than you have, like, because you haven't really done any of it. And I don't like it, and that makes it just way harder to cause havoc. Again, remember we talked about on the show on Thursday, Greg, they had only 5.8% havoc against Ohio State. First half of this game, 5.2%. So it was just as bad, right? So, or 5.3%. Like, and then second half, they did a lot better and they made a lot more plays. But then obviously they, didn't execute. They didn't make the tackles that they needed to, right? So I will say it's really hard to play defense when like the offense can never bail you out, because that's just basically how the offense has played so far. But I mean, you can look at it from every area in this game, and it just was like substandard at D-line, substandard at linebacker, and then secondary, they're just mistakes, right? Just mistakes being made.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the stats here. 50 carries for Marshall, 219 yards. LeBourne, 31 for 163. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Chris Tyree, three carries, 5 total touches. Just a shocking number. Audric Estime, 10 carries for 33 yards. It's just, I'm so surprised at their lack of ability to 4 for 13 on third down. Their lack of ability to control the line of scrimmage in on either side. It's just like there's no tackles for loss. We're not getting in negative plays. It's just we're like the sack numbers are down. 3 turnovers. Oh, man, it's just a tough. It's hard because there's no fix that's like schematic, in my opinion. Like there are things that you need to do to like we said, we get Tyree in space more, get Styles out in space more, right? Like things like that. You need to do those things.
Yeah.
But again, they call it, like at the end of the first half, you call a you call a perfect play to Lindsey. He's running free, and they can't take and you can't connect on the play. You can't make the play happen.
That's the kind of thing where you score that touchdown, you go into the lead, you go into the half with the lead. It changes the game. And I don't know. I think like, man, I'm sure it's going to be like, it's going to be like not a fun place to work for the staff this week. I mean, it's going to be tough. And I'll say this, like, man, Marcus Freeman, like, you're going to learn about him right away. And I think I'm sure there's a million people who are like, fire this guy already, because that's just how people react after a game like this. And a million people said fire Brian Kelly after, a bunch of his losses, right? Like,
yeah,
that's what happens. This game doesn't determine, like, isn't going to determine his thing. But I'll tell you what, like, if they go out and like lay an egg against Cal and play this kind of standard again, like, that is something that's whatever you want to see the team respond. And it's not even just like, it's not like, like I saw like Chris Storch coming out talking about how like, it's like one team came to play. I was like, I don't even know if it's just one team came to play and one didn't. Like, I think there's more than that. And there was, they talked about how the team was pissed off the whole week, but like, that didn't translate into what they needed it to at all. Like, it was, they can't miss like Avery Davis this much, like, oh God, it was ugly. It was ugly.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this up from Eric Rams. Worst team as far as talent in 25 years. I would say no. I would say less so than previous seasons. Just in terms of like proven playmaking, that is not like every team. It's just like, think about wide receiver, right? Like there was always a Fuller, and there was always a Boykin, and there was always a Claypool, right? And there was always a St. Brown, right? Like, even like, this is totally like, to me, that like people think 2016, right? Like 4-8, that team was completely different. They didn't win games for a reason that's different than this team. That team could move the ball. They had a plan on offense. Like, they were competent. Like, right now, Notre Dame is not a competent offense. Frankly, no. They're just not. Like that's why I'm saying, like, there's not a scheme fix to this. You cannot go back in time and go through camp again and become like, because that's when it all gets developed, in camp. And if it didn't happen in camp, it's very hard to do in the season, right? To just become confident. And unfortunately, what's probably going to happen is they are just going to have to suffer through some really bad games and maybe a bad season in order to get these guys to where it's like, we're gonna like get them up to speed and get them used to the fact that, like, this is what major college football is. Because right now, it's not there. It's not there. I have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this during the game. Do they need to make a change on the offensive line? And what I mean by that is, do they need to move Patterson back to center?
Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch. I didn't think Corral was a huge problem in this game on the first watch, but obviously there's like a million things. It's very hard to concentrate on just the line play when you're just watching it the first time. Like, so maybe they might need to just shake it up. But I don't know. Like, they were, I mean, I could pick out every single one of those guys and say, like, this was bad from them, right? Like, so, okay, 4th and short, they give it to Estemi in the thing, and he's fighting like heck to try to get over the thing. Joe Alt standing
not
there,
pushing.
not pushing. I was like, what is going on here? Like, I really hope. I'm pretty positive that Harry East is going to, rip him a new one when he gets into film about that. But it's like no one should ever have to do that. Like, and that is something that that has to be the mentality that's like baked into those guys, and that isn't there. And that's like severely missing from that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, this is like, it's going to take time for Heastan to kind of get that going again, because obviously he had that with his starters before, but like it seems just more than that too. Like, just all around, there's too many errors. But then I also think that there's a lot of stuff that it's like, well, what they're doing inside and what they were doing is bringing extra guys. It was like they had way more chances to run like RPO stuff, to hit them with stuff, and I just don't know why they didn't do it. I don't understand. And once you start doing that, then they have to back off, and then it becomes easier to run the football, right? So, I don't know. I just, up front, I don't really have like the answers for what they do there, like in terms of personnel.
The Darius coming with a good attitude. Notre Dame beats the cow.
I hope so, but
for Fratersall, I don't think this is like, they did not lose to Marshall because of a talent problem. Okay, that is
no.
They did, honestly, like it's not that at all.
Although they did. Here's the one thing though. This is why the recruiting rankings are very misleading, because you can have a top 10 recruiting class, but if you sign X amount of guys and but you miss out on like all the receivers that they've missed out on, like that doesn't get caught in the rankings, So it's like, well, the fact that they only signed one and then they had two other guys transfer out. And obviously, Jordan Johnson was not the guy that anyone thought he's been. He hasn't been at a UCF either. But like, and X Watts is playing. Like, they signed three guys. None of them play receiver anymore from that one class. Cam Hart and Kendall Durr-Rockman were in the one class. One's gone. Cam Hart plays defense now. Like, when you have that kind of thing, that doesn't get that part in the talent wise when it comes to receiver, like that does get lost there. So in terms of that area, but like there's no excuse that Notre Dame shouldn't be like bully Marshall in every sense of the thing, and that is 100% on coaching.
Right.
That they're not exploiting what they have that's better than Marshall.
Yeah, and for Frater, you made a follow-up comment. I'm not. I know you know it's, or you think it's not talent. I'm making clear that we're not saying that either. It's not a talent problem. Frankly, I don't. In my opinion, there is no. I don't think there's any other way to see it other than this is not a very well coached football team. It is. That is just true. They are not good at really anything, right? Except for Tariq Bracy playing really well in the slot. That's pretty much where it's at.
I thought they've coached a good game against Ohio. The defense coached a good game against Ohio State. I thought they did a tremendous job.
They coached a good game. But what I'm saying is that, but the team itself, what are
fundamentally,
they good at?
Yes.
What are they good at? I don't know what they're good at. I don't know what I can count on. So that's what the basis of my comment. I don't know what they're good at. I don't know what they're going to be good at. When you lose to Marshall, frankly, they got outplayed. That was the other part. They got completely outplayed by Marshall from a execution standpoint. Marshall was better prepared. They executed the game plan better, and they played with more urgency, just in my opinion. And so the team that did all those things, that usually happens in college football. Now, granted, Notre Dame's more talented, but you turn the ball over 3 times as well. So that's another issue. It's Tyler Buckner, just to follow up. So I was looking on Twitter, and Freeman said he doesn't know the severity other than he was out for the rest of the game once it happened. To me, that's troubling. When you're talking about if it's a stinger, like I was hoping it's like a stinger or something.
The way he was holding it, I'm going to guess that his shoulder came out.
So like a separated shoulder?
Separated sublux. I don't know if you know what a sublux shoulder is, but it is
Yeah.
like where your shoulder pops out and it pops back in again too. But it's basically like a lot of guys have to wear like a harness
Yeah.
there the rest of the time. But
so like you see a lot of defenders, right? Like Cam Hart wore a harness.
Bo Bauer.
Yeah.
Bo Bauer. So do you notice that Bo Bauer was grabbing his thing
I did.
like that?
Yeah.
Well, he's got a harness on that thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys have that. It's a very common injury. I had it. So maybe it's that. Maybe it was a full-on separation. I don't know. I mean, they'll obviously tell us. But I mean, the fact that they didn't even consider him to come back in the game,
not a good sign.
Not a great sign for next week, I would guess.
No. And that's not a good sign for the prospects. The prospects of Notre Dame doing well next week. But we'll deal with that later. That's kind of breaking the rules. Okay, so I guess Jamie, what are some other thoughts you have? I guess just I don't want to freewheel here. Is anything that stood out to you?
Not a lot positive that stood out. You know what? I just think it's one of the things is you have to look at it when you look at overall, is you have to question, like, I mean, Marcus Freeman and the whole staff, they kind of have to question themselves there, like, and where, like, what have they been doing that's been doing wrong? So that's the whole thing that I was thinking about. Was like, you have to basically like go back and say, like, what are we doing that is not allowing these guys, like some guys who have played much better, and then for them to not play at the level that they need to? What are we doing that's wrong?
That was part of what Freeman said. I caught a couple of his comments was like he said, I have to reevaluate myself. It's pretty clear to me. I obviously didn't read the comments. It's pretty clear to me that he's taking this, I didn't see the comment, so I don't know the context, but it's pretty clear to me that he's taking this as a fault of his own. He's like, what am I not doing to help this team? And I think that he mentioned, I don't know if it's my inexperience or what. Like, he's like, I don't think he understands, like what buttons is he supposed to push?
I mean, I think even with like Brian Kelly, who had coached a million years before he got to Notre Dame, like, when your team goes out and they lose a game like this, I mean, I think Nick Saban, even in his first year, I think he lost like Louisiana Lafayette, I think, in his first year. Like,
yeah.
And obviously, like, I don't care. I know Alabama's rebuilding and all that, but like, yeah, there's no reason why they should ever lose that game. So you have to like kind of like you have to look at everything you're doing, but it's not even just like your whole like philosophy or whatever. And I don't think like some of that kind of stuff has to change, or like people are like, oh, he's too buddy with the players or whatever. It's like, I don't think whatever. Yeah. His thing of like, be who you are. No, you got to be who you are, because he can't come in
right
like fire and brimstone and just because players know that's phony. That's not who he is. That's not whatever. That's not it. Right. So you have to look at like the tiny details of what they're doing and what they're doing in preparation for these games. Why, and the specifics of like why this guy has not played good, or this and all of these kind of things. And like, what are they doing in terms of like preparation that this was just not good enough for this game, or adjustments in this game? And I specifically on offense, I just thought like, well, like that will stick out to me. And I think people would have said and last week, because of obviously what happened in the second half against Ohio State, it's like the adjustments. I think this game more than anything was like, I just there was no feel for changing what you were doing to have success, the kind of success you needed. And maybe it's just like there was a lack of confidence in the players. And I mean, then that would be even more concerning.
Yeah. With Freeman too, we can look, people obviously like him. They like his demeanor and they like the way he speaks and answer questions. And it was interesting too, how I think it was after we recorded on Thursday, or maybe it was before. He said some comments that I was like, this is kind of pandering, like he was talking about taking shots and he was talking about
we're going to open it up and stuff.
Yeah, we're going to open it up. I was just like, we did talk about it, but it was like, he's being very honest, like, why is he being so honest? And I think to me, later on, I was like, this is kind of pandering. Like,
then you have games like this and he can't be as honest. He just can't.
Right.
That's just what happens, because you learn that, like, I kind of thought that because of how things started last year, like obviously the Florida State like second half was a disaster for the defense, and then the Toledo game wasn't great either. And it wasn't, I mean, they were 2-0, so it wasn't the worst start possible for him, but it wasn't very good. And he got a lot of heat, but there's a different kind of heat when it's you're the head coach. It's just a different kind of heat. Yeah. And now all of these things, people who were doing the college game day features and the Sports Center stuff and all these things of people praising him and like, the showing the clips of how excited everybody was, like that fades, that is gone. That fades away fast now.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter. And so now you get to it's kind of a wake up call, because it's like, that is gone. All that fluff is gone. And the only way to get out of it is to work. And yes, of course, they're going to need to recruit and get better players and all that kind of stuff. And we've always said that like Notre Dame has had to do that and to get to another level that they were going to have to if they were going to compete with the top 5 things. But it's like, you got to do the other baseline stuff first. And they're not, I mean, obviously they're not there. But I mean, football is such a weird week to week game where all of a sudden they could look, pretty good next week against Cal. We don't know. But you just can't let it spiral out. So what are you going to do to not let it spiral out?
I gotta say to C-Mac, this is a really good comment, because I didn't. Thomas didn't run the greatest route there. There wasn't the like compete level.
And he had a chance to fight for the ball.
He got out competed, and I thought on the other pick by Lindsey, I thought that was really not good by Lindsey. He didn't
come back to the ball.
He, not only that, but he didn't press the corner. He didn't get off, like explode off the line of scrimmage. And then he just kind of turned around, and he floated in the defensive back. I thought that was really poor by someone like, look, Thomas, this is his first season really being a big player. But Lindsey's been around, man. He's been around a long time. We are not expecting miracles. We expect to beat Marshall. That's what we are expecting. That Notre Dame.
I don't think anyone should. Everyone should
program.
Yeah.
I
always find it weird when. Okay, and not just. Sorry, I'm not trying to just single out Annette for her.
No, I'm just saying that's not.
There's
true.
a lot of people who
disagree that we. I disagree that we are expecting
people
miracles.
are okay to hold the standard that you should beat Marshall.
Right.
I think that's a fair standard to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think that like there's like some guy in the comments earlier who was like, "Are you going to stop calling them a top 10 team?" Like, yeah, buddy, no one is calling them a top 10 team now.
Yeah,
like what kind of dumb comment
like, please
is this?
be unranked. It's like, yeah, they're not going to be ranked now.
No one is going to fight to say that this team is going to have a chance at the playoff now. They have to start from ground zero, right? Like they got to beat Cal next week. That's where it starts, right? So it's a big, like right now, like whatever the expectations were, they're gone. So any chance that and you know how it is at Notre Dame, there is no conference championship
right
at the end of the thing. So even with some of these other teams that have these like just horrifying losses at the beginning of the year, they can like somehow get over it and still end up having a decent year. But it's like, well, I mean, on paper, Notre Dame should be a team that could win the rest of their games on their schedule this year.
Yeah.
But it's like, if they come out and play like they did against today, they're not going to be in a bowl game. So how are you going to do how are you going to get the team to believe that they can win against Cal and then so on and so forth? Like that's the kind of goal. And it's like baby steps, but like, I mean, is the team going to go like 6-6? Are they going to go 4-8? Are they going to go whatever? Like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know, whatever. Are they going to beat Cal? That should be the only thing they think about.
I thought this was a really good comment from Daniel, and we appreciate the super chat. Notre Dame certainly has athleticism. When it comes to wide receivers, they lack football skill. So I think that's really like astute comment, because like Styles definitely has that football skill that you're talking about, where he knows how to press a route, right? He knows how to attack the ball, right? Like we saw it last year against Cincinnati when they're running. He runs an out route and the ball is coming a little bit short, and he goes back and gets it, and he cuts upfield and he gets a first down, right? Like stuff like that. Lorenzo Styles is very good at that, and that's a football skill thing. That's a football feel.
Yeah.
And they just don't have a ton of that at wideout right now. We didn't see Joe Wilkins really again. I think he got a couple of plays. That's obviously still working itself back. Didn't see Tobias Merriweather. Maybe he got a snap in there that we missed, but that's just not a thing right now.
I'm sorry, I just read. When was the last time you were confident in Freeman winning a game? This morning. I was confident they were going to win this game. This morning.
I
didn't think they were losing this game.
I was confident when the fourth quarter started. Okay, I thought
they were going to win the fourth quarter. Yeah.
I thought they were going to be fine. Honestly,
you know what though? As soon as the Pitt 6 happened, I was like, oh, it's like, oh no, even when after Notre Dame had given up that long touchdown drive, I was like, they're gonna lose this game. I knew it. If they would have had Ian Book at quarterback, I think they would have won the game. Like, you know what I mean? Because he's the kind of guy who would just make enough plays in that spot, move his feet. And I don't think like Buckner, for example, like there are just plays there where I'm like, don't throw this ball.
Get out.
Run it.
Yeah.
Run it. This is the time to just be an athlete and do your thing. And that's what I wanted to see from him. But I was like, he's trying to, it's like almost he's like trying to like please Tommy Rees by like, I got to do this and do my job. And it's like,
well, we talked. He wants to throw, man. He's
just
not
go out there and play.
Guy. He's not that guy.
He's not that
to throw.
Yeah. And that's fine. But in that situation, you need someone to just let it loose and just go and play. And I mean, I think just that's kind of where they're at. And I just didn't feel confident that they were going to do something. And then other than like Mayer or Styles, I was like, who's going to make a play that could break this open? And I didn't have an answer.
Yeah. So I feel like we've been pretty hard on Rees throughout this kind of this whole post-game show. An honest review of Rees, I think he's a pretty good OC overall. I'm concerned about his ability to develop quarterbacks. I think that's fair at this point. And also, like, we keep talking about the lack of execution and the lack of the level of play on offense. That is a Rees responsibility. It is. He is the offensive coordinator. He just got a raise. Like, Notre Dame clearly feels like he is an upper echelon offensive coordinator, given the amount of money that he was paid. Now, we don't know the exact number, but we know that he was given a substantial raise to stay at Notre Dame, right? We know that's true. So
and that Miami tried to poach him for a big rate. Like,
right.
it's not like Notre Dame is the only one who thinks highly of him.
Yeah.
Of a thing, but you do have to look at the total track record of everything, and you're not going to just like you can't just say Buckner sucks. It's over for him, whatever, or this is going to happen. App State won.
App State beat Texas A&M.
Wow.
Tough day.
Okay.
Tough day.
You know what? At least we can feel good that Jimbo and their millions of dollars they've paid to all their recruits is blowing up in their face. But wow.
We got to hit up Carter because he put out a troll tweet out there that
he will get it. I'm sure Notre Dame fans will give it back to him.
I'm going to give it back to him as soon as we get off this.
Yeah. But I do think that, like, with Reese, this season is a big season for him because, he gets credit for developing Book into to a certain extent, right? And I think he got Book to be like to the best that he could be. I think that's fair to say that, right? He wasn't physically he didn't have the craziest gifts. He's very good athlete, but he didn't have the craziest arm. He wasn't this guy who came in and was like a super polished guy in a lot of ways,
No.
and he got it. And I think he did a good job with Jack Cohn. He certainly I think he got the best out of Jack Cohn for his physical abilities. But when you look at it, and this is how you have to look at, and you always adjust, and you have to add context to everything. But like Buckner is his guy, Pine is his guy, Angeli is his guy. These are evaluations that he made. So ultimately, how these guys do, it is going to be a reflection on him and where things are. And it matters. It definitely matters. And that's going to be part of it, right? When it comes down to it, just like how this game was part of it. Now, if they come out and all of a sudden he's got, he's pushing all the right buttons against Cal, then that stuff quiets down again. But this kind of stuff lingers. It does. It lingers, and people will still talk about it until Notre Dame gets a quarterback that becomes a Heisman contender, a first round guy, like whatever. That's just how it is.
Yeah. All right. What do you say, Jamie? Want to call it for the day?
Yeah, sure.
I think we've all vented enough and have taken this in. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm gonna go again tomorrow morning. We'll do like a morning after everyone's calmed down a little bit. We'll do like stats review and that sort of thing. We'll talk it over. So you check out that tomorrow morning, probably around 9 a.m. Eastern time, something like that, before the NFL gets going. So thank you everyone for tuning in. This is Irish Sports Daily. Hit and hustle. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. You're gonna want to go to Irish Sports Daily to get all the post-mortem stuff. There's gonna be write-ups. Jamie's gonna do a write-up. Jamie's gonna have a ton of good information about stats and that sort of thing, and success rates and havoc rates and bad rates, all the negative rates. So you're gonna want to check that out.
Alert. The rates weren't good. The rates weren't good in this game.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for everyone who joined us in the chat. It was mostly respectable. There were some people who were making some,
I think,
unfortunate comments.
Considering it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will talk to you very soon tomorrow morning.